Internet, hello you absolute lovelies. We officially have our first 7 members of the X-Men universe as of D23. I am so excited to break these characters down. The X-Men mean the world to me. I love this universe. I've done a lot of videos on casting, a lot of fan casting, a lot of how I'd bring in the X-Men, but now that we actually have our first 7 people cast, I want to talk about each and every one of them. Now, I am obsessed with the world of X-Men. I am down to the last 61 comics of any run, any print ever of these characters. A lot of people know me for Spider-Man, a lot of people know me for DC, but X-Men are a very early love of mine, so I'm very invested in getting new X-Men. So let's talk about each member of the X-Men that has been cast, and we have to kick it off with Storm. Now, Storm is going to be played by Maya Boyd. This is a 23-year-old kid that is from Broadway, and I love this. This is a character that gets to have an arc and gets to grow into being Storm. This is a character that starts out as a claustrophobic, scared child that ascends into a literal goddess, and we're casting a 23-year-old that gets to grow into this role right before our eyes. We have no connotation of this actor's other work. We have no prior association. And to top it off, this being a theater-based actor means there is so much dance training. There is so much movement training. She's an actual ballerina. All of this is going to inform so much of the wire work, of the summoning of storms and winds, and all of the theatricality that comes with being an X-Man, that comes with being a goddess, that comes with being Aurora Monroe. I love that her being an unknown means we get to immediately attach our feelings of this performance to her. We get to attach our connection to Storm to her. We're not going to be thinking about what Halle Berry did last. We're not going to think about what Alex Shipp has done before. This is a 23-year-old brand new take, and I love the theater background because almost every member of this cast is theatrically trained. The X-Men are known for their drama, they're known for their sass, they're known for their theatricality, and especially in a world that's going to be hating and fearing them. I talk about it a lot, I know, but especially in a world that's already established. The MCU is already very well versed. We're going to need some bombast and bravado to distinguish the mutants, and I think going this direction is absolutely the move. And speaking of the MCU, a lot of people are like, she's got no credits. She's huge on stage, I think we need to keep in mind, but she has 2 IMDb credits total. I love that. There's actually an article from back in the early MCU days talking about Tom Hiddleston and Chris Hemsworth being a risk and a gamble, and Marvel rolls the dice and casts 2 unknowns. Correct. Do that when you can and build around some unknowns, because if you look at the MCU, Hiddleston, Hemsworth, Holland, and if you want a non-H named, Jackman, all of these people were unknowns that had acting experience but weren't household names. I think she's going to fall into a very good category of, oh my god, that's Storm. I also love, personally, that she's taller than both Jean and Emma Frost. I think just comic accuracy with height will add certain elements to this story. I want her regal. I want her above. I want her a goddess. So she looks to be between like 5'10", 5'11". I'm not good at measuring those things, but she looks to be about the same height as Christopher Abbott, and he's 6 foot. So we're going to talk more about that as we go along, but I love the scaling of height for just an element of regality and theatricality. So very on board for Maya Boyd. I'm very excited about this casting. I cannot wait to see what she brings to my favorite X-Man. From her, let's go into another big surprise. Mr. Sinister is going to be our first big bad. There was no mention of Magneto. There was no mention of Sentinels necessarily. We are getting a very different X-Man. Director Drake Schreier has said he's been reading Claremont. He's been reading Hickman. Those are 2 very different eras, 30 years apart. But Mr. Sinister is iconically one of the big bads that ties into gene splicing and manipulation and Jean Grey. Jean Grey was introduced in Spider-Man Brand New Day in a very specific way, torturing mutants and allowing for some government oversight and regulation, and a lot of things we're going to uncover in some messed up shit. On the counter to that, we're going to meet a mutant that does it behind the scenes, that is obsessed with this very same mutant, and that's going to build out into a world that I think is going to also include the Hellfire Club and lots of other things, but just Mr. Sinister himself gives us an idea of where we're going with our first villain. It's not going to be the philosophical debate between Xavier and Magneto yet. It's not necessarily going to be the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants yet, and I think that's actually a gift, because we've seen that in the Bryan Singer movies. We've seen that in years of adaptations, including the X-Men animated series. We've never had this big bad that gets to be so focused on how we're bringing the X-Men to this world. Add to that Adam Driver. Adam Driver is 6'3", towering over almost everyone except nearly Cyclops, and I think that works. He also has such a theatricality to him. This is going to be like SNL Adam Driver meets Marriage Story Adam Driver. This is also going to be shades of Black Klansman and shades of Logan Lucky. I think we're also going to incorporate some white noise pompousness and a certain arrogance. This dude is made for this role. He looks like Mr. Sinister, but if you've ever seen him on SNL, he can keep a straight-faced or go full wacky and lean all the way into the absurdity. That is the diva. That is Mr. Sinister. This guy is an absurdist. There are worlds where he's made entirely populated by Jean Greys. He's made clones of himself. He has replicated himself. He's such an arrogant narcissist. There are entire universes, not literal universes, but entire worlds within the X-Men populated by Mr. Sinister and Jean Greys for his obsession. I want someone like Adam Driver that can add some depth to that, into the absurdity, and I think we got the right guy. Going from Adam Driver, another big ol' surprise, we got Inde Navarrette. Inde Navarrette is someone known for obsession. She was highly rumored for Mystique, and I think it's really interesting that that might have been a ploy from the beginning. When I think about Mystique, that is duplicitousness, that is lying, that is being a spy. I bet she knew when she said she wanted to be Mystique that she might already be Rogue. Those conversations might have already been happening. I don't know when the ink dried, but I love the idea of that strong of a mislead. The reason I love this even over Mystique is I think of Mystique as more of a physical character that is a little bit more of a brawler. She's a spy. I think of her a little taller. Rogue, I think of as the prototype, especially in the movies, for that lone wolf and cub kind of energy. I don't want her to be a Jubilee or a Kitty Pryde to Wolverine. So I'm glad she's getting introduced before Wolverine, seemingly. But I do see her as that kind of lost, in search of meaning. I'm alone. I'm an outsider character. So I like the 5 foot, very slight, very able to be meek, but then a powerhouse that Inde brings. Inde's able to turn on a dime. If you've seen even clips of Obsession, much less the movie itself, she can play both sides. This is a villainous character. Rogue starts as a villain. She literally is in the Brotherhood. She depowers Captain Marvel and then becomes on the side of the Angels, with Angel, but becomes an X-Man. I want that level of arc. I want that level of nuance and performance. Plus, there's an absolute gravitas to Inde. There is something that draws you in. That's painful with Rogue because you literally cannot touch her. She's a character that represents that distance that needs to stay. That is the perfect way to go. Someone that is this raw gravitational pull that cannot be touched. I think she's great for Rogue. To me, she looks like the X-Men Evolution version where they lean into that kind of like goth 90s, early 2000s sensibility. She's got that petite frame and innocence, but also that pivot into aggression. I can see her defending herself, but also playing coy. I think there's a lot that can be done with just this casting alone. She's also 25, which ties into the other X-Men we knew at 22 and 24 respectively. I think, and then 23-year-old Maya Boyd we didn't know until this week, but all these characters are between 22 and 25, so we're going to get some late teens, early 20s probably playing. We're going to get to grow up with her too, which I think is delightful. So she actually started in Superman and Lois, which I think is great too. She's coming from comic into comic lore, so I'm excited for Inde. What do you guys think of her as Rogue? I think it absolutely works. Plus, I think her playing off Gambit, depending who they cast, would be really interesting for like a next wave of her. Maybe they become good together, because Gambit also starts as a thief and a villain. A lot of potential there. Going from Inde over to Charles Xavier himself. This is going to be Christopher Abbott. He is our 40-year-old Xavier. Even when we met Patrick Stewart, we'd all known him for years. There was an association there. This is our first American Xavier. This is our first fairly young 40-something Xavier. McAvoy was about this age, but the association, I think, aged him a bit. Even in First Class, I think of him as like mid-30s, and they do flashbacks. But this is a very interesting take, having a 40-year-old Christopher Abbott and a 42-year-old Adam Driver. I bring up ages because when they cast Samara Weaving, she's in her mid-30s but looks early 30s, late 20s. I see Adam Driver and Xavier now as 40-year-old men. I think that's very conscious. I think we're going to find out that mutants have been around a little longer than we expected. I think this casting shows the X gene activating over time. I think we could have Wolverine, if they introduce him in the second movie, be even older. Evolution doesn't happen like that. There wasn't a reverse House of M. There was no M of House. There was not just a mutant gene activated. We found out in Ms. Marvel there are mutants, but it wasn't in that moment that it all started. So having a 40-year-old Xavier shows a little bit of distance. He's a professor. He needs to be older than these students. He's a full generation older, and I think that's going to tie into the Hellfire Club. I expect an older Sebastian Shaw. I expect this to be a conversation that happens. We also might be able to get some professors in classic X-Men roles. I don't know if Beast is going to be a kid or a teacher. Now with Charles Xavier this age, there's more of a range for him, Angel, Iceman, who knows? But the question remains, what's he bringing to this? Now, for me, personally, my exposure to Christopher Abbott is in Wolfman and very briefly in Kraven, of all things. But in Wolfman, I was so impressed also with his theatricality. That is a full-on horror film, and him and Julia Garner have some scenes in a basement that literally looks like a stage play, and I say that with praise. He has the emotional complexity, gravitas, and sheer energy of someone on a stage, on a screen. That is so hard to convey without feeling like it's a bad use of performance. He is able to bring that thespian intensity even on a screen in a horror movie that makes you feel like you're watching a stage play. That is what I want from Xavier. He also has the eyebrows to bring in a physical element to this. He looks like a lot of the very stern Professor Xavier. This guy's got a darkness to him that I'm very intrigued by. My only question is, that darkness and intensity is usually something I expect to build. McAvoy, we see that get planted and grow. Patrick Stewart, we see that kind of percolating, but even Patrick Stewart stays fairly altruistic overall. This man is coming with a darkness to start because that's just his energy. So I'm very curious, do we finally get Onslaught? Do we see a stronger connection between him and Magneto? Do they save Magneto in those philosophical questions for a while because Mr. Sinister is much more of an obvious evil? The Hellfire Club, much more of a 1% old money obvious evil. A lot more questions by not having Magneto in this, what Xavier is going to be doing and how he's going to be teaching, especially with casting someone that brings a certain furrowedness, that brings a certain intensity. So 40-year-old theater kid, Wolfman, darkness and intensity, eyebrows, all of those things I think are going to be a very different Xavier. I'm excited to see his work. I think he's very strong. Now, those are the 4 new names. We had 3 other names. I will very briefly just give you my thoughts in case this is your first exposure to me. I am Jandreau. I'm a comic book expert. I'm a comic book historian. I read 50 to 70 comics a week, and I cover movie, TV, and comics from the lens of someone that is a literal comic book expert. So if you're new to this page, please hit subscribe, but let me tell you my thoughts on the 3 we knew before, just in case you haven't heard them. Samara Weaving as Emma Frost, I think was our first sign that we were going to get some different generations of mutants. I've talked about that a fair amount in this video, but having someone that is more of an elder, not a student, having the Hellfire Club established, having someone that is in their 30s shows the distance of X-Gene through time. I think that's very intriguing. I think her as an actress is so able to be cold by appearance, but then immediately warm, immediately full of levity when she starts opening up. I think that's perfect because Emma Frost is the White Queen. Cold, hard, bitch at times. Literally gets Cyclops to cheat on Jean Grey. Very messy character. Villain, is responsible for the death of students that, depending on who you ask, leads her to the side of the angels or deeper down into the rabbit hole of darkness. That trauma shapes Emma Frost, and she's also willing to do anything for her students once she finds them, protects them. She's a member of the X-Men eventually. I think she's going to start out as a Hellfire Club leader. I think that's going to show a certain 1%. I think they're going to be mad that Jean Grey blew up their spot and was publicly a mutant. I think there's going to be an entire ecosystem and undercurrent of government and this subsect of like the Skulls and a power set in the Hellfire Club. Very excited to see that. In our government, we have people in these gross little cabals, and I'd love to see them actually dive into like a messy sex club full of the occult and lots of darkness. I don't know if Disney's going to go there. I don't know if Marvel's going to go there, but it would distinguish itself. First Class does dabble. This would be beautiful to see uncovered as an undercurrent of the X-Men. I think Samara Weaving would kill it. She also has this powerhouse presence. We're just seeing her. You feel the weight of it, and you need that for Emma Frost. Quickly to talk about Kit Connor, 22, 6'1", tall beast of a dude. He is a kid. He's 22, and he's like built like a brick house. He is the tallest of the students so far. He is only a little bit shorter than Adam Driver as Mr. Sinister. I think his build is very Jim Lee, which has me excited. I also like that he's about 9 inches, 10 inches taller than Jean Grey. I love that we've got these different, like, visible comic book dynamics. I really think he's going to be a great tactician. I think he's going to be a leader. I think he's going to be a strong commander. But in commanding, in leadership, you need to have a reason for that. Scott Summers isn't just a Boy Scout asshole. He's also in love with Jean in a myriad of ways. He also cares about the people he's leading. gold and blue team, Storm leading one team and him leading another team, I think is going to develop by meeting them first. I'm very excited to see their different leadership styles. I'm very excited to see what Cyclops brings to the table, and I think the emotional vulnerability of Kit Connor plus his machismo and way of carrying himself is going to bring a lot of strength, but also a lot of vulnerability to a very nuanced character that has not really gotten the time to show that. We didn't see that with Ty Sheridan very much. We didn't get a lot of time with him when it was James Marsden. The show has started to show that Capcom fighting style, but even the depth of emotion in the second season, we didn't get a lot of that. So I'm excited for the opportunity for this kid to add that. I think he's going to. And finally, Sadie Sink at 24 years old, 5'3", small human, a lot of intensity, and I think that's very important for Jean Grey. Her starting in a villainous role is a great way to plant the seeds of redemption, forgiveness, a world that hates and fears them, all of the obvious, but also Dark Phoenix not coming out of nowhere. Her ability to stay that tuned in and that focused, but already feeling the redemption arc at the end is beautiful. The movie couldn't have the redemption arc at the end because it's Spider-Man's movie. We get to see the redemption arc and all of the consequences be the entire X-Men. I love that Spider-Man Brand New Day gets to be a prequel to an entire saga without feeling like it sacrifices the movie itself. It didn't feel like it was some weird middle ground. It was a Spider-Man movie, but it launches all of this because of Sadie Sink's performance, because of the darkness in the way she was portrayed, but that allows for Phoenix to be percolating, but also I can't wait to see the forgiveness arc. I can't wait to see the error in her ways. I can't wait to see her learn and grow. And now Xavier's school, because of her, has to be both a place of education and learning how to do the right thing, but also a fortress that protects these kids that are ostracized, that have maybe done wrong things, like Rogue, like Gambit, all these details, Wolverine. Most of the X-Men have done some fucked up shit before they became X-Men, and that's going to set Cyclops apart as a Boy Scout. That's going to make Jean a very different take. It's also going to give Jean an arc for the first time in a long time. Sophie Turner didn't get a lot to do. Famke Jensen didn't get a lot to do. Sadie Sink has already had more to do in one movie that wasn't even hers. I'm excited to see that arc and where she gets to go with it, because she's an incredible actress. Also, just as a person that appreciates the dynamic in groups, it's cool to see Sadie Sink get to be the first and the leader of this group of young people, as opposed to the one that came in late to Stranger Things and was like the outsider amongst this group that had known each other for 5 years. I think she's going to thrive, and I'm really excited for Sadie Sink's Jean Grey, really excited for all these other kids to get to play these roles that mean so much to me. Those are my initial honest thoughts about the 7 X-Men we know so far. Mr. Sinister, I'm saying X-Men cast, the people in the mutant era that is to come. These are the first 7 that we know for sure that have been officially confirmed. Please check out my How I'd Bring in the X-Men into the MCU video. I still stand by all of it. I've got a Nightcrawler solo movie pitch. I've got a Storm solo movie pitch. I've got a Jean Grey, Scott Summers together movie. Check out that video. Also, please check out my fan casting videos. I got 2 of them up so far. If they keep doing well, maybe I'll make a third. I got more X-Men I love that I could cast. So please check those videos out, and please hit that subscription bell. I cover all sorts of this stuff all the time. Videos almost daily lately. Gotta slow down, but I got lots of stuff coming at you in the world of movie, TV, and comics, and we're just getting started because we've got Lanterns out right now. We've also got so much coming later this year with Vision Quest, with obviously Doomsday, with Clayface this fall. There's so much to be done, so please join me on this journey, and you also please leave a comment. What do you think about Maya Boyd, about Adam Driver, about Indy, about Christopher Abbott, about Samara Weaving, Kit Connor, and Sadie Sink? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts, and press a like while you're pressing buttons. I appreciate you all very, very much. I will see you very soon for even more. It is the age of the X-Men. We're in a new one. I'm so excited. The era of mutants is upon us, and it's real.